Clara May Whitmore's knees hit the frozen ground before she could stop them. Blood dripped from her temple onto the snow, and the whole town watched like she was a wounded animal they weren't sure they wanted to save. Someone laughed. Someone whispered, "Damaged goods." But one man stepped forward when everyone else stepped back. What he did next would change both their lives forever. If you want to see how this story ends, subscribe to my channel and follow Clara's journey to the very last word. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story travels. The stagecoach door swung open, and Clara May Whitmore tried to climb down like a proper lady. Her body refused. Her left leg buckled. Her ribs screamed. The frozen air hit her lungs like a fist, and she grabbed the coach frame so hard her knuckles turned white. For one terrible moment, she hung there half in, half out, while the entire population of Bitter Creek, Wyoming stared at her like she was something scraped off a boot. "Lord have mercy," a woman muttered. "Look at her face." Clara knew what they saw. The purple bruise spreading from her temple to her cheekbone. The split lip crusted with dried blood. The way she held her left arm tight against her ribs because breathing hurt less that way. She forced her chin up anyway. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. "Is that Hawkins' bride?" A man's voice loud enough to carry. "The mail order one. Looks like the mail got damaged in transit." Laughter followed, sharp and cruel. Clara's vision swam. The cold bit through her thin coat, a coat meant for Philadelphia winters, not Wyoming ones. Snow swirled around her ankles. Her fingers were going numb on the coach frame, and she knew if she let go, she would fall. She let go anyway. The ground rushed up. Clara braced for impact, for the pain that would follow, for the humiliation of lying in the dirt while strangers watched. Strong arms caught her instead. She gasped, partly from surprise, partly because the sudden movement sent fire through her broken ribs. But the arms that held her were careful, gentle. Like whoever had caught her knew exactly where she hurt. "I got you." The voice was low and rough, close to her ear. "I got you, ma'am." Clara opened her eyes. The man holding her had a face like the land itself, weathered, hard-lined with deep-set brown eyes that held more sorrow than any one person should carry. Dark hair showed beneath his hat, threaded with silver at the temples. He wasn't handsome in the way city men were handsome. He was something else, something stronger. "You're safe now," he said. "Can you stand?" Clara tried. Her legs screamed in protest. "No," she admitted, and the word cost her more than he would ever know. "Then I'll carry you." "Sir, you can't, we haven't even been introduced. Name's Josiah Hawkins. Folks call me Joe." He shifted her weight like she was nothing. "And you're Clara May Whitmore. We've been writing letters for 3 months. I reckon that counts as an introduction." Clara stared at him. This was her intended. This quiet, steady man with kind eyes and calloused hands. She had pictured someone harder. Someone who would take one look at her bruised face and send her back where she came from. "Mr. Hawkins." "Joe." "Joe." The name felt strange on her tongue. "I should tell you the journey there was trouble." "I can see that." His jaw tightened, but not at her. At something beyond her. "We'll get you to the dock first. Talk later." "But the wedding we were supposed to—" "The wedding can wait." He started walking, carrying her through the crowd like they weren't even there. "Your healing can't." The people of Bitter Creek parted before them. Clara saw their faces, curious, suspicious, pitying. A few women whispered behind their hands. One man stepped forward, blocking Joe's path. Clara recognized expensive clothes when she saw them. This man wore a black wool coat that probably cost more than her father had made in a year. His boots were polished despite the mud. His eyes were cold. "Hawkins." The man's voice dripped with false concern. "This the bride you sent for? She doesn't look well." "She ain't well, Judge. Now move." "Judge." Clara filed that away. A man with power then. "I'm simply concerned." The judge didn't move. Perhaps she should stay at the boarding house until she's recovered. My wife can look in on her. Make sure she's properly cared for. Joe's arms tightened around Clara. Not enough to hurt, enough to protect. I appreciate your concern, Judge Black. Joe's voice was steady as stone. But this woman is my responsibility. I'll see to her care. Will you? Judge Black smiled, and it didn't reach his eyes. The whole town saw her arrive, half dead, beaten. One might wonder what kind of trouble follows a woman like that. Clara felt the words land like blows. Her throat tightened. The kind of trouble that attacks women on open roads, Joe said. The kind that takes advantage when there's no one to protect them. That ain't her fault, and I won't hear it spoken like it is. The crowd went quiet. Judge Black's smile flickered. Just for a moment. Then it returned wider than before. Of course, I meant no offense. He stepped aside with an exaggerated bow. I'll call on you both later, to welcome the bride properly. Don't trouble yourself. Joe walked past him without another word. Clara kept her cheek pressed against his shoulder because it was the only steady thing in a world that had gone sideways. She could feel his heart beating strong and even. He smelled like leather and wood smoke, and something clean, like fresh snow. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? Arriving like this, causing trouble, being... Don't. His voice softened. Don't apologize for surviving. Clara closed her eyes and let him carry her. Dr. Samuel Whitfield's office sat at the end of the main street, wedged between the blacksmith and the land office. Joe shouldered through the door without knocking. Doc. A man looked up from a desk covered in papers. He was thin and tired-looking, with silver-streaked hair, and the steady hands of someone who had seen too much death to be afraid of it anymore. Hawkins. Dr. Whitfield stood taking in Clara's condition with one sweep of his eyes. Bring her here, the back room. Joe carried Clara through a narrow doorway and set her down on a clean cot with more gentleness than she expected from such large hands. She winced when her ribs settled against the mattress. Sorry, Joe said. It's all right. Dr. Whitfield was already moving, washing his hands, gathering supplies. What happened? Stagecoach was hit, Clara said. 3 days out. Bandits. The doctor's face didn't change. How many men? 4, maybe 5. It happened fast. They take anything. Everything. Clara's voice cracked. My trunk. My mother's pearls. Letters. My wedding dress. Joe's hand found hers. She hadn't realized she was shaking until he stilled it. The driver didn't stop for help. Dr. Whitfield was examining her now gentle fingers, probing her ribs, checking her wrist. No. He said we were behind schedule. Said stopping would... Clara sucked in a breath as the doctor touched a particularly tender spot. He said stopping would only cause more trouble. Son of a... Joe stopped himself. Sorry, ma'am. I've heard worse. That don't make it right. Dr. Whitfield stepped back. 2 cracked ribs, sprained wrist. The cut on your head will need cleaning, but it's not deep. You'll heal. Clara nodded. She had expected worse. But, the doctor continued, you'll need rest. A lot of it. No lifting. No straining. And someone to watch you for the first few days. Head injuries can be tricky. I'll watch her, Joe said. Clara looked at him. Joe, we're not married yet. If I stay at your ranch... I got a ranch hand. Eli. He's just a boy, but he's there. And I'll send for Martha Peabody to stay as chaperone. Martha Peabody. Runs the boarding house. Good woman. Lost her daughter years back. She'll take one look at you and adopt you whether you want it or not. Dr. Whitfield was cleaning Clara's head wound now. She tried not to wince. What about the wedding? She asked. Joe was quiet for a moment. The wedding, he said slowly. will happen when you're ready, not a day before. But the town, they'll talk. Let 'em talk. His eyes met hers. I didn't send for you so I could own you, Clara. I sent for you because I wanted a partner, someone to share the work and the hard times and maybe, God willing, the good times too. That ain't changed because of what happened on some road. Clara stared at him. In Philadelphia, she had been told her value was in her virtue, her reputation, her ability to keep house and keep quiet. Her stepfather had made it clear that a woman alone was a burden. A woman damaged was worthless. This man was saying something different. You don't even know me, she whispered. I know you wrote me honest letters. I know you didn't promise me things you couldn't give. I know you survived something terrible, and you're still sitting upright. He squeezed her hand. That's enough to start. Dr. Whitfield cleared his throat. She can go, but take the wagon. Don't make her ride horseback. And come back in 3 days so I can check those ribs. Joe nodded. Thank you, Doc. And Hawkins. The doctor's voice dropped. Judge Black was asking questions about her before the stage even arrived, wanting to know who she was, where she came from. Be careful. Joe's expression hardened. I always am. The wagon ride to the ranch took an hour. Clara spent most of it pressed against Joe's side, his coat wrapped around her shoulders, watching the snow-covered land stretch out in every direction. She had never seen so much empty space. In Philadelphia, everything was close houses pressed together, streets narrow, people everywhere. Here the sky went on forever. The mountains in the distance looked like they were holding up the edge of the world. It takes getting used to. Joe's voice was quiet. The space. How did you know what I was thinking? You got that look. Same one I had when I first came west. He clicked his tongue at the horses. Give it time. The land grows on you. Clara pulled his coat tighter. It smelled like him. Joe, yeah. Why did you really send for a wife? A man like you, surely there were women in town who would have married you. He didn't answer right away. The wagon wheels crunched over frozen ground. There was someone, he finally said. Long time ago, Sarah. We had a little girl, Lily. Clara heard the past tense. Her heart clenched. Winter of 73, diphtheria. I was gone delivering cattle 2 territories over. By the time I got back, Joe. Clara touched his arm. You don't have to. I do. His voice was thick. You should know who you're marrying. I'm a man who buried his family because he wasn't there when they needed him. I rebuilt that house 3 times trying to make the echoes stop. Took me 5 years before I could even think about letting someone else in. Clara was quiet. The wind carried his pain between them. I'm not looking to replace Sarah, he continued. Nobody could. But I've been alone long enough to know it ain't living. And your letters. He glanced at her. You wrote like someone who understood that. I do. Then that's why I sent for you. They rode the rest of the way in silence. But it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was the kind that happens when 2 people don't need words to understand each other. Mug. The ranch house sat in a shallow valley, smoke rising from its chimney, snow piled against its walls. It was simple logs and a wide porch and windows that glowed warm against the gray afternoon. A boy came running before the wagon stopped. He was 12 or so, skinny and quick with dark hair that stuck up in every direction. He skidded to a halt when he saw Clara, eyes going wide. Eli. Joe climbed down from the wagon. Help me with Miss Whitmore. She's hurt. Eli didn't move. He stared at Clara's bruised face, her careful movements. She ain't pretty, he said. Eli. I know. Clara managed a small smile. I've looked better. The boy's expression shifted, surprised. Maybe that she hadn't scolded him. He stepped closer. What happened? Bad men on the road. Did you fight 'em? I tried. Something flickered in Eli's eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition. "I'll get the door," he said, and ran ahead. Joe helped Clara down from the wagon. She leaned on him more than she wanted to, but her leg was burning, and her ribs wouldn't let her breathe deep. "Who is he?" she asked quietly. "His father worked for me, died last spring. Horse kicked him." Joe guided her toward the porch. "Eli had nowhere else to go. So you kept him. Seemed the right thing to do." Clara looked at this man, this quiet, grieving, generous man, and felt something shift in her chest. Inside the house was clean and simple. A fire burned in the hearth. A table sat near the window with 2 chairs. A bedroom door stood open, showing a wide bed with a faded quilt. "You'll sleep there," Joe said. "I'll take the loft." "Joe, I can't take your—" "You can. And you will." He helped her to the bed, and she sank down gratefully. "Rest now. I'm going to send Eli for Mrs. Peabody. She'll be here by evening." Clara looked up at him. Firelight caught the silver in his hair. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Joe paused at the doorway. "Because someone should have been kind to you on that road," he said. "And they weren't, so I'm making up for it." He left before she could respond. Clara lay back against the pillows and stared at the ceiling. Her body ached. Her head throbbed. But for the first time in weeks, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. It was fragile and small like a candle flame in a blizzard, but it was there. Martha Peabody arrived before dark. She was a small woman with gray hair pulled back tight and eyes that saw everything. She took one look at Clara and clucked her tongue. Lord Almighty, those animals. "Mrs. Peabody." "Martha, and don't argue with me, child. I've been patching up broken things longer than you've been breathing." She set down a basket that smelled like fresh bread. "Joe told me what happened. Not all of it, I suspect, but enough." Clara watched her move around the room, stoking the fire, setting out food, checking Clara's bandages with efficient hands. "The town is already talking," Martha said. "You should know that." "I expected it." "Did you expect Judge Black to be leading the chorus?" Clara's stomach tightened. "The man who stopped us in the street." "That's him, Cornelius Black, owns half the territory and wants the other half. He's been after Joe's land for years. Joe won't sell." "What does that have to do with me?" Martha's hands paused on the bandage. "Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Black is the kind of man who looks for weakness. And right now, you look like one." Clara pushed herself upright despite the pain. "I am not weak." Martha smiled. It transformed her face. "No," she said. "I don't reckon you are. But Black doesn't know that yet. So we'll let him underestimate you. It's a weapon too." "You talk like you've fought battles." "I have. Lost my husband at Antietam. Lost my daughter to fever 3 years later. I'm still standing." Martha squeezed Clara's hand. "So will you be. Just give it time." Clara looked at this fierce little woman and felt the fragile hope in her chest grow stronger. "Thank you," she said. "Don't thank me yet. I snore." Clara laughed and winced when her ribs protested. "Don't make me do that." "No promises." Martha headed for the door. "I'll bring you soup. Then you sleep. Tomorrow we figure out how to handle a snake named Black." Joe didn't come inside again until Clara was asleep. He stood in the doorway of the bedroom watching her breathe. Martha had left a lamp burning low, and in its light the bruises on Clara's face looked like shadows. "She's stronger than she looks." Martha's voice came from behind him. "I know." "You gonna tell her about Black, about what he did to the Hendricks place?" Joe's jaw tightened. "Not yet. She's got enough to worry about." "She deserves to know what she's walking into." "She does. And I'll tell her. When she's ready." Martha was quiet for a moment. "You're different with her," she finally said. "Different than you were with Sarah." Joe flinched. "Don't." "I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying Sarah was sunshine. This one's steel. Might be what you need. I don't need anything. Liar! Joe turned to face her. His eyes were bright. I watched her fall, he said. I watched her fall, and I caught her, and for 1 second, Martha, I felt something other than dead inside. Martha didn't respond. I don't know if that's love or hope or just desperation, but I know I can't let Black or anyone else hurt her. I know that much. Then protect her. Martha pulled on her coat. But let her protect herself too. Women like that, they break when you put them in cages. Even pretty ones. She left. Joe stayed in the doorway a while longer watching Clara sleep. Outside, the wind picked up. Snow began to fall again. Somewhere in the darkness, he knew Judge Black was making plans. But so was he. I'll keep you safe, he whispered to the sleeping woman. Whatever it takes. Clara stirred, but didn't wake. The fire crackled. The snow fell. And in the quiet ranch house at the edge of the world, something new was beginning. Something that would change everything. Clara woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of arguing. She ain't staying, Eli's voice sharp and young. You said it was just gonna be us. You promised. I never promised that. Joe's voice patient but strained. And keep your voice down. She's hurt. I don't care if she's hurt. I don't want her here. Clara lay still, listening. Her ribs ached with every breath, but she didn't move. Eli. My pa said women ruin everything. They come in and they change things and then they leave. Or they die. Either way, you end up alone again. Silence. Long and heavy. Your pa was wrong about a lot of things. Joe's voice had gone quiet. And I ain't asking you to love her. I'm asking you to give her a chance. Why should I? Because I'm asking. More silence. Then footsteps quick and angry, and the slam of a door. Clara closed her eyes and pretended to sleep when Joe appeared in the doorway. She heard him sigh, heard him walk away. She understood Eli's fear. She had felt it herself once, the terror of letting someone in when everyone you loved had left. But understanding didn't make it hurt less. Martha came in a few minutes later with a tray. You're awake. Don't pretend you're not. Clara opened her eyes. How did you know? Your breathing changed. Martha set the tray down. You heard the boy. Yes. Don't take it personal. He's been through hell. Lost his pa, lost his home, lost everything he knew. Joe's all he's got left, and now here you come threatening to take that too. I'm not threatening anything. I know that. You know that. Eli don't know that yet. Martha handed her a cup of coffee. Give him time. He'll come around. Clara sipped the coffee. It was strong and bitter, and exactly what she needed. What if he doesn't? Then you'll figure it out. That's what women do. Martha's eyes softened. Now eat. Doc's coming by later and I won't have him saying I starved you. Clara ate. The food was simple bread and butter and some kind of dried meat, but it tasted better than anything she'd had in weeks. When she finished, Martha helped her sit up and checked her bandages. Ribs are looking better, less swelling. They don't feel better. Healing hurts. That's how you know it's working. A knock at the front door made them both freeze. Stay here. Martha's voice had gone hard. Don't come out unless I call for you. She left. Clara heard the door open. Heard voices, Martha's sharp and unwelcoming, and another. A man's voice, smooth and cold. Judge Black. Clara pushed herself up despite the pain. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood gripping the bedpost when the room tilted. Mrs. Peabody, I'm simply here to pay my respects. Black's voice carried through the thin walls. It's the Christian thing to do. Since when are you Christian? Martha, such hostility. I'm wounded. Not yet you ain't. Clara moved toward the door. Each step sent fire through her ribs, but she kept going. She would not hide in a bedroom while this man invaded her home. Her home. The thought surprised her. She reached the main room just as Black pushed past Martha. He stopped when he saw Clara. "Miss Whitmore." His smile was oil on water. "You're looking better?" "Judge Black." Clara kept her voice steady. "I don't recall inviting you." "A man doesn't need an invitation to welcome a neighbor." "We're not neighbors, and I'm not welcoming." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. He hadn't expected her to push back. "I can see you're still recovering. Perhaps I should speak with Mr. Hawkins instead." "Joe's working. Anything you need to say, you can say to me." Black's smile widened. "Very well, I'll be direct. There are concerns in town about your situation. A woman unmarried living on a man's property. It raises questions." "Questions from whom?" "From the good people of Bitter Creek, from the church, from those who care about propriety." Clara felt her hands curl into fists. "And what business is it of theirs?" "Everything in this town is my business, Miss Whitmore." The mask slipped just for a moment. She saw the predator beneath. "I'm the law here, the judge, the final word on what's proper and what's not." "Then you should know that Mrs. Peabody is here as my chaperone, that Joe sleeps in the barn, that we've done nothing improper." "That's your word." "It's the truth." "Truth is a funny thing." Black stepped closer. Clara held her ground. "It depends on who's telling it. And right now the only story people are hearing is mine." The door banged open. Joe stood in the doorway, snow on his shoulders, fury in his eyes. "Get out of my house!" Black turned slowly. "Hawkins, we were just—" "I said get out. I'm a representative of the law. You can't—" Joe crossed the room in 3 strides. He grabbed Black by the collar and shoved him toward the door. Black stumbled, caught himself on the frame. "Touch me again and I'll have you arrested." "Try it." Joe's voice was deadly quiet. "See how that goes." The 2 men stared at each other. Clara could feel the hatred crackling between them like lightning before a storm. Black straightened his coat. "This isn't over, Hawkins. You can't protect her forever. Watch me." Black looked at Clara one last time. "Think about what I said, Miss Whitmore. This town can be very unforgiving." He left. Joe slammed the door so hard the walls shook. "Are you all right?" He was at Clara's side in an instant, hands hovering like he wanted to touch her, but wasn't sure if he should. "Did he hurt you?" "No, he just talked." "His talking is a weapon." Joe's jaw was tight. "I should have been here. I shouldn't have left you alone." "I wasn't alone. Martha was here." "Martha can't stop a man like Black." "Neither could you if he really wanted to hurt me." Clara met his eyes. "Joe, what is this really about? What does he want?" Joe was quiet for a long moment. "My land," he finally said. "He's been after it for years. This valley has the best water access in 50 miles. He's bought up everything around it, but I won't sell." "So he's using me to get to you." "That's what I figure." Clara absorbed this. "Then maybe I should leave. Go back to—" "No." Joe's hand found hers. "You're not going anywhere. This is your home now. Or it will be if you still want it. Even if it means war with Judge Black. I've been at war with him for years. This doesn't change anything." He squeezed her hand. "Does it change things for you?" Clara thought about Philadelphia, about her stepfather's cold house and her mother's silence, about the life she had run from. "No," she said. "It doesn't." Joe nodded. Something passed between them, not quite trust, not quite love, but the beginning of both. "Then we face him together." Martha cleared her throat. "That's touching and all, but the girl needs rest. And you," she pointed at Joe, "need to stop picking fights with judges." "He came into my house." "I know, and you handled it. Now let it go. We got bigger problems than Black's bruised pride." "Like what?" Martha looked at Clara. "Like the fact that half the town thinks she's a fallen woman, and the other half thinks she's a curse." The words hit Clara like a slap. A curse? Folks are superstitious out here. A bride who arrives beaten and bloody, that's a bad omen. There's already talk about calling off the wedding. They can't do that, Joe said. It's not their decision. It is if they make it impossible for a preacher to perform the ceremony, if they refuse to witness, if they make your lives so miserable that she decides to leave on her own. Clara's stomach turned. She had thought leaving Philadelphia would be an escape. Instead, she had walked into another trap. "What do we do?" she asked. Martha's eyes were steady. "You fight. Same as always." The days that followed were hard. Clara healed slowly. Her ribs went from screaming to aching to merely sore. Her leg strengthened. The bruise on her face faded from purple to yellow to something that could almost be hidden. But the damage went deeper than skin. She heard the whispers when she went to town with Martha. Saw the way women crossed the street to avoid her. Watched men tip their hats to everyone but her. She learned to hold her head high anyway. Eli remained distant. He did his chores, ate his meals, answered questions with as few words as possible. When Clara entered a room, he left. When she spoke to him, he pretended not to hear. She didn't push. She remembered what Martha had said about giving him time. But she watched him. She saw how he flinched when Joe raised his voice. How he ate like someone who had known hunger. How he kept his few possessions close like he expected them to be taken. She knew that boy. She had been that child once afraid and alone, and certain that love was just another word for loss. One morning, she found him in the barn struggling with a saddle that was too heavy for him. "Need help?" He spun around. "I can do it myself." "I know you can. I asked if you needed help. There's a difference." He stared at her suspicious. "Why do you care?" "Because you're 12 years old and that saddle weighs more than you do." "I'm almost 13. "Fine, you're almost 13 and that saddle still weighs more than you do." Something flickered in his eyes. Not quite a smile, but close. "You talk different than other ladies." "I am different than other ladies." "Why?" Clara leaned against the barn wall. Her ribs protested, but she ignored them. "Because I grew up poor. Because my father taught me to read before he taught me to curtsy. Because I've been hurt and I've been scared and I've been told I was worthless more times than I can count." She met his eyes. "Sound familiar?" Eli's face closed off. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do. And that's okay. You don't have to talk about it. But I want you to know something." "What?" "I'm not here to take Joe away from you. I'm not here to change things or ruin things or make you feel like you don't belong. I'm just here because I had nowhere else to go, same as you." Eli was quiet for a long moment. "My pa used to hit me," he said. "When he was drunk." Clara's heart cracked. "I'm sorry." "Joe don't hit, not ever. Even when I mess up bad." Eli's voice was barely a whisper. "I don't want that to change." "It won't. Not because of me." "How do you know?" "Because a man who hits doesn't catch falling women and carry them to doctors. He doesn't give up his bed for a stranger. He doesn't take in orphaned boys just because it's the right thing to do." Eli's eyes were wet. He blinked hard and looked away. "Maybe you're not so bad," he muttered. Clara smiled. "Maybe I'm not." She reached for the saddle. "Now let me help you with this before you hurt yourself, and then you can teach me how to ride. Deal?" "You don't know how to ride." "I'm from Philadelphia. The only things I rode were streetcars." "What's a streetcar?" "A big wagon that runs on metal tracks. Like a train but smaller." Eli's eyes went wide. "That sounds made up." "It's real, I promise." "Prove it." "Teach me to ride, and I'll tell you all about Philadelphia." Eli considered this. Then slowly he nodded. "Deal." It wasn't much, but it was a start. That afternoon the weather turned. Clara was in the kitchen with Martha learning how to make biscuits that didn't taste like rocks when the temperature dropped so fast she could feel it in her bones. Joe came in with a grim face. "Storm coming. A bad one. How bad? Martha asked. 3 days, maybe 4. We need to bring the cattle in close and secure everything that can blow away. Eli. The boy appeared in the doorway. Yes, sir. Help me with the horses. Move fast. They disappeared into the growing wind. Clara watched through the window as snow began to fall, not gentle flakes, but hard driving sheets that turned the world white in minutes. Is it always like this? No. Martha's voice was tight. This is worse. An hour later, the world had vanished. Clara couldn't see the barn, couldn't see the fence, couldn't see anything but white. The wind screamed like something alive and angry. Joe and Eli came in covered in ice. Horses are secure. Cattle are close to the house. We'll lose some, but not all. Joe was already building up the fire. We need to stay inside. Nobody goes out for any reason. What about the neighbors? Clara asked. Are they safe? The Hendricks are the closest, and they're 3 miles out. Nothing we can do for them tonight. Clara thought about what Martha had said about Judge Black and the Hendricks place. She wanted to ask, but this wasn't the time. They ate dinner in near silence, listening to the wind tear at the walls. Eli sat closer to Clara than usual. She pretended not to notice. After dinner, Joe paced. He checked the windows, checked the fire, checked the door, checked everything again. Joe. Clara touched his arm. Sit down. You're making me nervous. I don't like storms. I noticed. He sat, but his body stayed tense. His eyes kept moving to the window, to the darkness beyond. The night Sarah and Lily died, he said quietly. There was a storm. Not like this one, but bad. I kept thinking if I had been home, maybe I could have done something. Maybe I could have gotten them to a doctor. Maybe I could have. You couldn't have. You don't know that. I know that you would have done everything possible. I know that some things can't be stopped no matter how hard we try. I know that blaming yourself doesn't bring them back. Joe looked at her. Really looked like he was seeing her for the first time. How do you do that? Do what? Say the exact right thing. Clara almost laughed. I've never said the right thing in my life. Ask anyone who knows me. I'm asking you. She was quiet for a moment. My father died when I was 17. Tuberculosis. It took months. I watched him get weaker every day, and I kept thinking if I had noticed sooner, if I had called a different doctor, if I had prayed harder. I made myself sick with guilt. What changed? Nothing. I still feel guilty sometimes, but I learned that guilt is a liar. It tells you that you had power you never really had, that you could have controlled things that were never yours to control. She met his eyes. You didn't kill Sarah and Lily. The disease did, and punishing yourself won't bring them back. Joe's hand found hers. His fingers were rough and warm and real. You're remarkable, he said. You know that. I'm stubborn. There's a difference. Maybe that's the same thing. The wind screamed outside. Inside, something shifted between them. Clara leaned into his shoulder. He put his arm around her, careful of her ribs. They sat like that while the fire crackled and the storm raged, and for the first time since she had left Philadelphia, Clara felt something like peace. The storm broke on the 3rd day. Clara woke to silence, the strange ringing silence that comes after so much noise. She pushed herself up and looked out the window. The world was white and still and impossibly bright. Joe? No answer. She got up, moving carefully. Her ribs were almost healed now, but she had learned not to push too hard. The main room was empty. The fire had burned down to embers. Martha's coat was missing from its hook. Clara's heart began to pound. She pulled on her coat and opened the door. The cold hit her like a wall, stealing her breath. Snow had drifted up past her knees. Joe. Nothing. Martha, Eli. Still nothing. She forced her way through the snow, following tracks that led toward the barn. Every step was a struggle. The cold bit through her clothes, through her skin, through everything. She found them at the fence line. Joe was on his knees in the snow, cradling something in his arms. Martha stood beside him, one hand on his shoulder. Eli was crying. Clara's blood turned to ice. "Joe, what happened? What's—" She got close enough to see. It wasn't a body. It was a calf, small and half-frozen and barely breathing. "Found her buried under a drift." Joe's voice was hoarse. "She's alive, but barely." Clara's relief was so sharp it nearly brought her to her knees. "Bring her inside. I'll get blankets." They worked together, warming the calf by the fire, rubbing life back into her frozen limbs, feeding her warm milk with a rag. Eli refused to leave her side. "Is she gonna die?" he asked. Clara looked at the tiny creature, at her labored breathing, and her closed eyes. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but we're going to do everything we can. Promise. I promise." 3 hours later, the calf opened her eyes. An hour after that, she was standing on wobbling legs. By evening, she was following Eli around the house like a puppy. "She needs a name," Clara said. Eli looked at her, then at Joe, then back at the calf. "Hope," he said. "Her name is Hope." Joe caught Clara's eye. He didn't smile, but his face softened in a way that was almost the same. "Hope it is," he said. That night, after Eli had fallen asleep with Hope curled beside him, Joe and Clara sat by the dying fire. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For being here. For helping with the calf. For—" He stopped, searching for words. "For making this feel like a home again." Clara's heart turned over. "It's strange," she said. "I've only been here a week, but Philadelphia already feels like a dream. Like it happened to someone else." "Is that good or bad?" "Good, I think. Mostly good." Joe turned to face her. In the firelight, his eyes were warm and deep, and full of something that made her breath catch. "Clara." "Yes. I know we agreed to wait. I know you're still healing and the wedding isn't for another week. But I need you to know something." "What?" He took her hand. His grip was gentle, but certain. "I'm not marrying you because of letters. I'm not marrying you because I need a housekeeper, or because I'm lonely, or because the town expects it." He paused. "I'm marrying you because you're the bravest person I've ever met. Because you fell off that stagecoach half dead and still held your head high. Because you look at Eli like he matters. Because you saved a calf and called her Hope." Clara's eyes burned. "Joe, I'm not asking you to love me," he continued. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I want you to know that I could love you. Easy. If you'll let me." The fire crackled. The wind whispered against the windows. Somewhere in the corner, Eli murmured in his sleep. Clara leaned forward and kissed him. It was soft and brief and tasted like salt from her tears. When she pulled back, Joe was staring at her like she had hung the moon. "I could love you too," she whispered. "I think I already do." He kissed her again, longer this time, deeper. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "One more week," Joe said. "Then you're mine." "I'm already yours." Clara smiled. "I just haven't made it official yet." They sat together until the fire died, hands intertwined, hearts full of something that felt like the beginning of everything. Neither of them heard the rider pass in the darkness outside. Neither of them saw Judge Black's man watching from the trees, counting windows, noting doors. Neither of them knew that their peace was about to shatter. But the morning would bring answers. And some answers, once given, could never be taken back. The rider came at dawn. Clara heard the hoofbeats, first fast and urgent, cutting through the morning silence. She was already awake, already dressed, already standing at the window when the horse appeared on the ridge. Joe was beside her in an instant. "Stay inside." "Joe, please." Something in his voice made her obey. She watched through the glass as Joe walked out to meet the rider. The man was young, breathless, his horse lathered with sweat despite the cold. He spoke quickly, hands gesturing toward town. Joe's body went rigid. Clara's stomach dropped. He came back inside with a face like stone. "Get dressed. We're going to town." "What happened?" "Judge Black filed charges against me. Says I attacked him in my own home." "That's a lie." "I know, but he's the judge. His word carries weight." Joe was already pulling on his coat. "They're holding a hearing in an hour. If I don't show, they'll send men to arrest me." Clara's blood ran cold. "This is about me. He's doing this because of me." "He's doing this because he's a snake who wants my land. You just gave him an excuse." Martha appeared in the doorway, her face grim. "I heard. I'm coming with you." "Martha." "Don't argue. You need witnesses. I was there when Black came to the house. I saw what happened." "So did I." Clara grabbed her coat. "I'm testifying." Joe caught her arm. "Clara, you don't understand. Black controls that courtroom. The sheriff answers to him. The jury is made up of men who owe him money or favors. If you testify against him, then what? He'll ruin my reputation." Clara laughed, and it came out bitter. "He's already doing that. What more can he take? Your safety. Your future." Joe's eyes were desperate. "Our future." Clara reached up and touched his face. His jaw was rough with stubble, his skin cold from the morning air. "Our future is nothing if we let him win without a fight." She met his eyes. "I didn't come all this way to hide. I came here to build a life. With you, and I won't let some small-town tyrant take that away." Joe stared at her for a long moment. Then he kissed her forehead soft and fierce at once. "God, you're stubborn. You keep saying that like it's a bad thing. It's not." He pulled back. "Eli, you're coming too. I need you to stay with the horses." The boy appeared, eyes wide. "Is Joe gonna go to jail?" "Not if I can help it." Clara squeezed his shoulder. "But I need you to be brave. Can you do that?" Eli nodded, jaw set in a way that reminded her painfully of Joe. "Good. Let's go." The ride to town felt endless. Clara sat beside Joe in the wagon, her hand on his arm, watching the snow-covered land pass by. Everything looked peaceful. Everything looked like a lie. "Joe." She kept her voice low so Eli and Martha couldn't hear. "If this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, I need you to know, don't." His voice cracked. "Don't say goodbye. Not yet." Clara fell silent. Bitter Creek was crowded when they arrived. Word had spread, and it seemed like the whole town had turned out to watch Joe Hawkins fall. Clara saw faces. She recognized the woman from the mercantile, the blacksmith, Dr. Whitfield, standing near the courthouse steps. And there, on the porch of the largest building in town, stood Judge Black. He was dressed in black, which seemed appropriate. His smile was the smile of a man who had already won. "Hawkins." He spread his arms wide. "So good of you to join us." "Cut the theatrics, Black. Let's get this over with." Eager to face justice. How admirable. Black's eyes slid to Clara. "And you brought your companion. How touching." Clara felt Joe tense beside her. "She's my witness," Joe said. "She has a right to be here." Of course. Everyone has rights." Black's smile sharpened. "Though some rights are more protected than others." The hearing was held in the courthouse, a cramped room with wooden benches and a raised platform where Black sat like a king on his throne. The sheriff stood by the door, hand on his pistol, eyes empty. Clara sat in the front row with Martha. Joe stood alone before the judge. "Josiah Hawkins, you are charged with assault upon my person. How do you plead? Not guilty." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "An interesting choice." Black steepled his fingers. "I have 3 witnesses who saw you grab me by the collar and throw me from your home. You came uninvited. You threatened my bride. I asked you to leave." "Asked?" Black raised an eyebrow. "That's not how I remember it." "Then your memory is faulty." The sheriff stepped forward. Watch your tone, Hawkins. Joe's hands curled into fists at his sides. Clara saw the effort it took him to stay calm. I have witnesses too, Joe said. Mrs. Martha Peabody and Miss Clara Whitmore. They were both present. They'll tell you what really happened. Black waved his hand dismissively. Ah, yes, your housekeeper and your mail-order bride. Hardly impartial witnesses. More impartial than the men who owe you money. The crowd went silent. Black's mask slipped. Just for a second, Clara saw the rage beneath cold and calculated and utterly merciless. Be careful, Hawkins. You're already in considerable trouble. Let my witnesses speak. Let the town hear the truth. Black leaned back in his chair. He made a show of considering of weighing options, but Clara knew he had already decided. Very well. Let's hear from Mrs. Peabody first. Martha stood. Her chin was high, her eyes steady. I was at the Hawkins ranch when Judge Black arrived. He came uninvited and pushed his way past me when I tried to turn him away. He cornered Miss Whitmore alone and made threatening remarks about her character and her place in this town. Threatening? Black's voice dripped with false concern. What exactly did I say? You said everything in this town is your business. You said truth depends on who's telling it. You implied that Miss Whitmore's reputation was in your hands. Whispers ran through the crowd. Clara saw faces changing, doubt creeping in where certainty had been. And what did Mr. Hawkins do? He asked you to leave. You refused. He removed you from his property. No more force than necessary. Martha's eyes were ice. Less than you deserved if you want my opinion. Black's jaw tightened. I didn't ask for your opinion. Then you shouldn't have asked me to testify. Someone in the back of the room laughed. The sheriff glared, but the damage was done. Miss Whitmore. Black turned his attention to Clara. Would you like to add anything to Mrs. Peabody's account? Clara stood. Her heart was pounding, but her voice was steady. Everything Martha said is true. You came to that house to intimidate me. You wanted me to know that you had power, and I didn't. You wanted me scared and alone and willing to leave. That's quite an accusation. It's the truth. Clara stepped forward closer to the platform where Black sat. You've been after Joe's land for years. Everyone knows it. And when I arrived, beaten, vulnerable, easy to target, you saw an opportunity. An opportunity for what? To destroy him. Through me. The room erupted. People were talking, shouting, arguing with each other. The sheriff called for order. Black banged his fist on the platform. Silence! Silence, all of you! But Clara wasn't finished. You want to know what really happened on that stagecoach? Her voice cut through the noise. I was attacked, beaten, robbed of everything I owned. But I survived. I came here anyway because I believed this place could be home. She turned to face the crowd. I know what you've heard about me. I know Judge Black has been spreading rumors since the day I arrived. But I'm telling you now, I am not damaged goods. I am not a curse. I am a woman who survived something terrible and found the strength to keep going. Silence. Clara took a breath. Joe Hawkins didn't attack Judge Black. He protected me. That's not a crime. That's what a good man does. She looked back at Black. And if this town can't see the difference, then maybe it doesn't deserve either of us. She sat down. Her hands were shaking. Martha gripped her arm, eyes bright with tears. Black stared at Clara for a long moment. His mask was back in place, but she could see the cracks beneath. A very passionate speech, Miss Whitmore, but passion isn't evidence. Then call more witnesses. Joe's voice was calm now, certain. Call Dr. Whitfield. He treated Clara's injuries. He knows what she went through. That's hardly relevant. Call him. Black hesitated. Clara saw him calculating, weighing risks. Very well. He nodded to the sheriff. Dr. Whitfield, please approach. The doctor walked forward slowly. He looked tired, like a man who had seen too much and said too little. Dr. Whitfield. Black's voice was honey. You treated Miss Whitmore when she arrived? I did. And what were her injuries? 2 cracked ribs, sprained wrist, multiple contusions, a cut on her forehead that required cleaning. The doctor paused. Injuries consistent with a violent attack. By whom? She said bandits, on the road. Black spread his hands. So we have no proof of what actually happened. Only her word. Her word and her body. Dr. Whitfield's voice hardened. I've treated wounds for 30 years, Judge. I know the difference between an accident and an assault. Miss Whitmore was beaten, deliberately, by men who wanted to hurt her. But you can't prove that. No. The doctor met Black's eyes. But I can tell you this. In all my years in this town, I've never seen you show concern for anyone who couldn't benefit you. So why are you suddenly so interested in a stranger's welfare? The room went deadly quiet. Black's face flushed red. Are you accusing me of something, Doctor? I'm asking a question. The same question everyone in this room should be asking. Clara held her breath. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Then a woman's voice rang out from the back of the room. He's right. Everyone turned. A woman stood in the doorway, tall, thin, elegant, despite the fear in her eyes. Clara recognized her immediately. Miriam Black, the judge's wife. Miriam. Black's voice was a warning. This is not the time. It's exactly the time. She walked forward, her footsteps echoing in the silence. I've watched you destroy people for years, Cornelius. I've stayed quiet because I was afraid. But I'm done being afraid. Miriam. You didn't just want the Hawkins land. You tried to buy it. When that failed, you tried to force Joe to sell by spreading rumors about his debts. When that failed, you started looking for another angle. She stopped in front of the platform. That's when you heard about the bride. Clara's blood turned to ice. What are you saying? Joe's voice was barely a whisper. Miriam turned to face him. Her eyes were wet. The bandits who attacked Miss Whitmore's stagecoach. My husband hired them. The room exploded. People were screaming, shouting, pushing toward the platform. The sheriff tried to maintain order but was overwhelmed. Clara felt hands grabbing her arm, Joe pulling her close, shielding her with his body. It's true. Miriam's voice cut through the chaos. He paid men to stop the coach, to steal her things, to beat her badly enough that she would arrive damaged, give the town something to talk about. He wanted Joe to reject her. He wanted the scandal to ruin them both. You lying witch! Black was on his feet, face purple with rage. You have no proof. I have letters. Miriam reached into her coat and pulled out a bundle of papers. Your letters, to a man named Carson, detailing exactly what you wanted done, and how much you would pay for it. She threw the letters at his feet. Your handwriting, your seal, your orders. Black lunged for the papers, but Dr. Whitfield was faster. He scooped them up and stepped back, already reading. My God. The doctor's face went pale. It's all here. The payments, the instructions, the... He looked up. He wanted them to kill her if necessary. Clara's legs gave out. Joe caught her before she hit the ground. She was dimly aware of his arms around her, of his voice in her ear, of the chaos swirling around them both. Judge Black had tried to have her murdered. She had survived by accident, by luck, by the grace of bandits who had decided robbery was enough. Clara, Joe's voice was desperate. Clara, look at me. She looked. His face was blurred through her tears, but she could see his eyes dark and fierce and full of something that looked like love. You're alive, he said. You survived. He didn't win. He almost doesn't count. Joe pressed his forehead to hers. You're here. You're safe. And he's going to pay for what he did. The sheriff was reading the letters now. His face had gone gray. Judge Black. His voice shook. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. You can't arrest me. I'm the law in this town. Not anymore. The sheriff pulled out handcuffs. Not after this. Black backed away. His eyes were wild, desperate, searching for an escape that didn't exist. This is a conspiracy. My wife is lying. Those letters are forged. Your seal. Dr. Whitfield held up one of the papers. Your handwriting, your signature. 3 witnesses have identified them, including your own clerk. Black's face crumpled. In that moment, Clara saw him for what he really was. Not a powerful man, not a king on his throne, just a small, cruel person who had been caught in his own trap. I want a lawyer, he said. You'll get one. The sheriff snapped the cuffs onto his wrists. After you've spent a few nights in the cell, you put so many others in. They led him away. The room began to empty, people streaming out into the street, talking in shocked whispers. Clara stayed where she was, Joe's arm still around her, too stunned to move. Martha appeared beside them. Her eyes were red, but she was smiling. It's over, she said. It's finally over. Is it? Clara's voice was hoarse. He has friends, money, power. He has nothing now. His wife just testified against him in front of the whole town. His letters prove he tried to have you killed. Even his friends can't protect him from that. Joe helped Clara to her feet. Her legs were shaky, but she was standing. I need air, she said. They walked out together, Clara, Joe, Martha, and Eli, who had been waiting by the horses with wide, frightened eyes. Is it true? The boy asked. The judge tried to hurt Miss Clara. Joe knelt down to his level. Yes, but he's going to jail now. He can't hurt anyone anymore. Good. Eli's small face was fierce. I hope he rots there. Eli. He deserves it. The boy looked at Clara. You were brave, real brave. Clara managed a smile. So were you, waiting out here all alone. I wasn't alone. I had hope. Hope, the calf. Eli pointed to the wagon where a small furry head was poking out from under a blanket. I couldn't leave her at the house alone. She gets scared. Despite everything, Clara laughed. It hurt her ribs, and it hurt her heart, and it made her feel more alive than she had in days. You brought a calf to a murder trial. She's family. Eli said it like it was obvious. Clara looked at Joe. He was shaking his head, but he was smiling too. Let's go home, he said. Home. The word settled into Clara's chest like a promise. They climbed into the wagon, all of them, including the calf, and Joe clicked his tongue at the horses. Miriam Black appeared beside them before they could leave. Miss Whitmore. Clara looked down at her. The woman's face was drawn, exhausted, but her eyes were clear. I should have spoken sooner. I knew what he was planning, and I stayed silent. I let fear make me a coward. Why did you speak now? Miriam glanced back at the courthouse. Because I saw you stand up there and refuse to be broken. Because I realized that if a woman who had survived what you survived could still fight, then I had no excuse. Clara reached down and took her hand. What will you do now? I don't know. Leave probably. Start over somewhere else. Miriam squeezed her fingers. But whatever I do, I'll remember you. The woman who taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to act anyway. She let go and stepped back. Joe snapped the reins and the wagon lurched forward. Clara watched Miriam's figure grow smaller in the distance. Do you think she'll be all right? She asked. I think she's stronger than she knows. Joe's hand found hers. Kind of like someone else I know. Clara leaned against his shoulder. The road home was long and cold, but she barely felt it. She was thinking about everything that had happened, about Black's arrest, about Miriam's courage, about the letters that proved a judge had tried to have her murdered. Joe. Yeah. The wedding. Is it still tomorrow? His voice was firm. If you still want it. Tomorrow? Clara sat up. But we haven't prepared. We don't have... We have everything we need." He looked at her, his eyes soft in the fading light. "We have each other. That's enough." Clara thought about her mother's pearls lost on the road, about the wedding dress that might still be somewhere in Black's possession, about all the things she had planned for a day that was supposed to be perfect. Then she thought about Joe, about Martha and Eli and the little calf named Hope, about what really mattered. "Tomorrow," she said. Joe smiled. It transformed his whole face. Tomorrow. They rode the rest of the way in silence. But it was a different silence than before. Fuller. Warmer. Like the silence between two people who had nothing left to prove. When they reached the ranch, Eli jumped down first. He was already chattering about the trial, about Black's face, when the letters came out about how Clara had stood up to everyone. Martha followed, moving slowly, her age showing in ways it hadn't before. "I'm going to bed," she said. "These old bones need rest." "Thank you," Clara caught her hand, "for everything." "Don't thank me, thank yourself." Martha's eyes were kind. "You did the hard part. I just told the truth." She disappeared inside. Eli took Hope to the barn, still talking to the calf like she could understand him. And then it was just Clara and Joe, standing in the snow, the stars coming out above them. "Hell of a day," Joe said. "Hell of a week. Hell of a life." He pulled her close. "But I wouldn't change it, any of it, because it brought you here." Clara looked up at him. "I almost died," she said. "Before I even met you. Black wanted me dead." "But you didn't die. You survived. You came here. You fought." His hand cupped her face. "And tomorrow, you're going to marry me. And we're going to build a life together. And nothing, not Black, not his men, not anyone is going to stop us." Clara kissed him. It was different from before, deeper, more certain. When they broke apart, she was breathing hard. "Tomorrow," she whispered. "Tomorrow." They walked inside together, hands intertwined. The fire was burning. The calf was settled. Eli was already asleep, and Martha's snores echoed from the back room. Clara looked around at this small, simple house. Her house. Her home. Her future. And for the first time since she had left Philadelphia, she believed it might actually last. Clara woke before dawn on her wedding day. She lay still in the darkness, listening to the house settle around her. Martha's snores from the next room. The soft shuffle of Eli turning in his sleep. The wind against the windows gentler now than it had been during the storm. Today, she would become Clara Hawkins. The thought should have terrified her. 3 weeks ago, she had been a stranger in this land, beaten and broken, and certain that her life was over. Now she was hours away from pledging herself to a man she barely knew. But she wasn't afraid. She was ready. A soft knock came at the door. "Clara?" Martha's voice rough with sleep. "You awake?" "Yes." The door opened. Martha came in carrying a candle, her gray hair loose around her shoulders. "Couldn't sleep either?" "No." Martha sat on the edge of the bed. In the candlelight, she looked younger somehow, softer. "I was like this on my wedding day, too. Up before the roosters, heart pounding, wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life." "Were you?" "No." Martha smiled. "Marrying Thomas was the best thing I ever did. 32 years together before the war took him. I wouldn't trade a single day." Clara reached for her hand. "I wish I had known him." "He would have liked you. He always had a soft spot for stubborn women." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "Martha?" "Do you think I'm doing the right thing, marrying Joe so fast? We've known each other less than a month." Martha squeezed her fingers. "Let me ask you something. When you think about tomorrow, about next week, next month, next year, do you see yourself anywhere but here?" Clara considered the question. She thought about Philadelphia, about her mother's cold silence and her stepfather's cruel words, about the life she had left behind. Then she thought about this ranch, about Joe's steady hands and quiet strength, about Eli's fierce loyalty and Hope's wobbly legs and Martha's sharp tongue and warm heart. "No," she said, "I don't." "Then you have your answer." The door banged open. Eli stood in the doorway, eyes wide, breath coming fast. "Miss Clara, you gotta come quick." Clara was on her feet before she knew she was moving. "What is it? What's wrong?" "It's Joe. He's—" The boy's voice cracked. "There's blood. Lots of blood." Clara ran. She didn't feel the cold floor under her bare feet, didn't notice the darkness or the wind or anything except the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She found Joe in the barn slumped against the wall, one hand pressed to his side. "Joe." She dropped to her knees beside him. Her hands found his face, his shoulders searching for the source of the blood that was soaking through his shirt. "I'm all right." His voice was strained but steady. "Clara, I'm all right." "You're bleeding." "It's not mine." Clara stopped, looked down at her hands. The blood was fresh, warm, but Joe's skin was intact beneath her fingers. "Then who's—" "One of Black's men." Joe's jaw tightened. "He came just before dawn. Tried to set the barn on fire." Clara's blood turned to ice. "What?" "I heard something. Came out to check. He had a torch." Joe shifted, wincing. "We fought. He pulled a knife. I got it away from him." "Where is he now?" "Tied up in the back. Still breathing, but he won't be going anywhere." Clara sat back on her heels. Her heart was still racing, but the panic was fading, replaced by something colder. "Black is in jail. How did he send someone? He's got friends, people who owe him, people who are scared of what happens if he talks." Joe met her eyes. "This isn't over, Clara. Not yet." She absorbed that. Then she stood up and offered him her hand. "Can you walk?" "Yeah." She helped him to his feet. He was steadier than she expected, but he was still favoring his left side. "You're hurt." "Just bruised. He got in one good hit before I took him down." "Dr. Whitfield should look at you." "After the wedding." Joe's voice was firm. "I'm not postponing this. Not for Black, not for his men, not for anyone." Clara looked at him, this stubborn, impossible man who had caught her when she fell and never let go. "You're bleeding on your wedding day." "So I'll change my shirt." He almost smiled. "It ain't the wedding I pictured, but nothing about us has been what I pictured, and I wouldn't change any of it." Clara kissed him. It was quick and fierce, and tasted like blood and fear and something else, something like forever. "1 hour," she said. "I need 1 hour to get ready. Take 2. I've got a prisoner to deliver to the sheriff." Martha appeared in the barn doorway, Eli behind her. "I heard shouting." "What?" She saw the blood. "Lord have mercy." "It's handled." Joe was already moving toward the back of the barn. "One of Black's men. I need you to help Clara get ready while I take him to town." "You're going to town? Now looking like that?" "I'll clean up on the way." "Josiah Hawkins, you are the most pig-headed man I have ever—" "Martha!" Clara's voice cut through. "Let him go. We don't have time to argue." Martha's mouth snapped shut. She looked at Clara, then at Joe, then back at Clara. "Fine, but if he's not back in 2 hours, I'm coming after him myself." "Deal." Joe disappeared into the back of the barn. Clara heard sounds of struggle, cursing, a heavy thud. Then Joe emerged, dragging an unconscious man by the collar. "He woke up," Joe explained. "Had to put him back to sleep." Clara didn't ask how. She watched as Joe loaded the man into the wagon, checked his bonds, and climbed up onto the seat. He looked down at her blood on his shirt bruises forming on his face and smiled. "I'll be back in an hour. Be ready." "I will." He clicked his tongue at the horses and was gone. Clara stood in the cold watching until the wagon disappeared over the ridge. Then she turned to Martha. I need a bath. Hot water. Clean clothes. I'll get the kettle. And Martha? Yes. Thank you. For everything. Martha's eyes softened. Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen what I do with hair. The next hour was a blur of activity. Martha heated water while Clara scrubbed the blood from her hands. Eli was sent to check on the animals while the women worked in the bedroom, transforming Clara from a frightened bride into something else entirely. Hold still. Martha was wrestling with Clara's hair, pinning it up in a style that was simple but elegant. You keep fidgeting. I'm nervous. You faced down a corrupt judge in front of the whole town. You can handle a wedding. That was different. That was survival. This is love. Martha met her eyes in the mirror. This is love. And that's always harder. Clara fell silent. Martha finished her hair and stepped back to survey her work. You look beautiful. I don't have a wedding dress. I don't have flowers. I don't have... You have everything that matters. Martha placed her hands on Clara's shoulders. You have a man who loves you. A boy who's starting to love you. A life worth living. The rest is just decoration. Clara's eyes burned. I wish my mother could see this. Maybe she can, somewhere. She's not dead. She just stopped seeing me. After my father died. After she remarried. Clara's voice broke. She chose him over me, her own daughter. Martha pulled her into a hug. Clara let herself be held, let the tears come. Some mothers don't deserve their children, Martha said softly. But that doesn't mean you don't deserve love. It means you've been looking for it in the wrong places. Clara pulled back, wiping her eyes. How did you get so wise? I got old. It happens to everyone eventually. Martha smiled. Now, let's get you married before that fool man of yours does something else reckless. Joe returned with 10 minutes to spare. Clara heard the wagon, heard his boots on the porch, heard Martha telling him he looked like he'd been in a bar fight. I look fine. You look like something the cat dragged in. Good thing I'm not marrying the cat. Clara laughed despite herself. Joe appeared in the doorway of the bedroom, freshly washed, wearing a clean shirt and his best coat. The bruise on his jaw was darkening, but his eyes were bright. Clara? Joe. He stared at her like she was something holy. You look... He stopped, swallowed. You look like everything I never knew I wanted. You look like you lost a fight. One, actually. Should see the other guy. Clara crossed the room and took his hands. His fingers were rough and warm and real. Are you ready? Been ready since you fell off that stagecoach. He raised her hand to his lips. Let's do this. The preacher arrived just before noon. Reverend Thomas Millbrook was a thin man with kind eyes and a voice that carried. He had ridden out from town despite the cold, despite the roads, despite everything. I heard what happened yesterday, he said, shaking Joe's hand. With Black. The whole town's talking. Let them talk. They're saying good things mostly. About Miss Whitmore's courage. About yours. The Reverend smiled. It's about time someone stood up to that man. Is that why you came to show support? I came because two people want to get married and I'm a preacher. That's my job. His eyes crinkled. The support is just a bonus. They gathered in the main room, Clara and Joe, Martha and Eli, the Reverend, and the little calf, who refused to stay in the barn. First wedding I've done with livestock present, the Reverend remarked. She's family, Eli said, chin jutting out. Then she's welcome. The ceremony was simple. No flowers, no music, no grand gestures. Just two people standing before God and each other making promises they intended to keep. Do you, Josiah Hawkins, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part? Joe's eyes never left Clara's face. I do. And do you, Clara May Whitmore, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? To have and to hold from this day forward for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until death do you part. Clara felt the words settle into her bones. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. The Reverend smiled. You may kiss the bride. Joe cupped Clara's face in his hands. His touch was gentle, reverent. I love you, he whispered. I know it's too soon to say it. I know we barely know each other. But I love you, Clara Hawkins. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt it. He kissed her. It was soft and sweet and full of promise. Eli made gagging sounds. Martha cried. Hope bleated and tried to eat the Reverend's coat. And Clara laughed because for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The celebration was small but perfect. Martha had prepared food, roasted chicken, fresh bread, preserves she had been saving for a special occasion. They ate around the fire, sharing stories, laughing at jokes that weren't particularly funny. Tell me about when you first came west, Clara said to Joe. Before everything. Joe's face softened. I was 20 years old. Thought I knew everything. Rode out from Missouri with $30 and a horse that was half dead. What happened to the horse? Died a week later. I had to walk the rest of the way. He shook his head. Took me 3 months to get here. By the time I arrived, I had nothing but the clothes on my back and a determination to never be that poor again. And now you own one of the best ranches in the territory. Now I own a ranch that needs constant work and doesn't pay enough and is being targeted by men who want to burn it down. Joe smiled. But yeah, it's mine. And now it's yours too. Clara reached for his hand. Ours. A knock at the door shattered the moment. Everyone froze. Joe was on his feet in an instant, hand moving to the rifle above the fireplace. Stay here. Joe. Stay. Here. He moved to the door, rifle ready. Who's there? It's Dr. Whitfield. I need to speak with you. It's urgent. Joe glanced back at Clara, then opened the door. The doctor stood on the porch, hat in hand, face grave. May I come in? Of course. Whitfield stepped inside. His eyes found Clara, then moved to Joe. I'm sorry to interrupt your wedding day, but you need to know what's happening in town. What's happening? Black escaped. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. That's impossible, Joe said. The sheriff had him locked up. How? His men, the ones he paid off, they ambushed the jail this morning. Whitfield's voice was tight. Sheriff's dead. Deputies wounded. Black is gone. Clara's legs gave out. Joe caught her, lowered her into a chair. Where did he go? No one knows. But Joe... The doctor's face was haunted. Before he left, he was ranting. About revenge. About finishing what he started. About making you both pay. Clara's hand found her stomach. She felt sick. He'll come here, Joe said. It wasn't a question. That's what I think. Whitfield pulled something from his coat. I found this nailed to the church door. It was a note. 3 words scrawled in black ink. This isn't over. Joe crumpled the paper in his fist. Get your things, he said to Clara. We're leaving. Leaving, Joe, this is our home. It won't be a home if we're dead. His voice was harsh. Black is insane. He has nothing left to lose. He will come here, and he will try to kill us both. I won't let that happen. So we run. We let him win. We survive. That's not the same as letting him win. Clara stood up. Her legs were shaky, but her voice was not. I didn't survive the Stagecoach attack just to spend the rest of my life running. I didn't marry you just to abandon our home the same day. Clara, No. She faced him chin high. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of letting men like Black control my life. He wants us to run, then we stay. He wants us broken, then we fight. Joe stared at her. You're asking me to put you in danger. I'm asking you to trust me, the same way I trusted you when I stepped off that stagecoach. The room was silent. Martha spoke first. She's right, Joe. Running won't solve anything. Black will follow. He'll always follow. The only way to end this is to face him. And what, wait for him to show up and shoot us in our sleep? No. Clara's mind was racing. We prepare. We get help. We set a trap. A trap. Black thinks we're scared. He thinks we'll run or hide or fall apart. But what if we don't? What if we're ready for him? Joe was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. What do you have in mind? They worked through the night. Dr. Whitfield spread the word quietly. Men who hated Black, who had been waiting for a chance to stand against him, began arriving at the ranch one by one. By midnight, there were 12 of them. Ranchers, farmers, a blacksmith, a store owner. Men who had lost land to Black's schemes. Men who had watched friends destroyed by his corruption. Men who had stayed silent out of fear and were finally ready to fight. He'll come from the east, one of them said. A rancher named Jensen with a scar across his face and hands like hammers. That's the only approach that gives him cover. How many men does he have? 4, maybe 5. Most of his people scattered after the trial. But the ones who stayed are the worst kind. Killers. Clara listened from the corner of the room. She was exhausted, but she couldn't sleep. Not with so much at stake. We need to be smart about this, Joe said. I don't want a bloodbath. I just want Black stopped. He won't stop. Not until you're dead. Jensen's voice was blunt. You took everything from him. His power, his reputation, his wife. A man like that doesn't forgive. Then we don't give him a choice. Clara spoke up. What if we could turn his own men against him? Everyone looked at her. What do you mean? Joe asked. Black controls people through fear and money. But he's got no money now. His assets are frozen. And fear only works if people believe he can hurt them. She met the eyes of each man in the room. If we show his men that he's lost, that standing with him means death or prison, some of them might walk away. You're giving them too much credit, Jensen said. These aren't reasonable men. Maybe not, but even unreasonable men want to survive. The room was silent. Then Joe smiled. It was small and tired, but it was real. I married a strategist. You married a survivor. Clara walked to his side. There's a difference. Dawn came cold and gray. Clara stood at the window watching the horizon. Somewhere out there, Black was coming. Somewhere out there, her new life hung in the balance. Joe came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. Scared? Terrified? Me too. You don't look scared. I've had practice. He rested his chin on her shoulder. Clara. Yes. Whatever happens today, I want you to know that this past month has been the best of my life. You came here broken and bleeding, and somehow you put me back together. I didn't know I was in pieces until you showed me what whole looked like. Clara turned in his arms. Nothing is going to happen to us. We're going to survive this. We're going to build a life. We're going to grow old together on this ranch and watch Eli become a man and raise children of our own. That's a lot of promises. I know. She kissed him softly. I plan to keep everyone. A shout from outside broke them apart. Riders coming, from the east. Clara's heart seized. Joe grabbed his rifle. Stay inside. Joe. Please, Clara, just this once. Stay inside where it's safe. She saw the fear in his eyes, the desperation. Okay, she whispered. But if anything happens to you, nothing's going to happen to me. He kissed her forehead, I finally have something worth living for. I'm not dying today." He was gone before she could respond. Clara stood at the window, hands pressed against the cold glass, watching her husband walk toward whatever was coming. And she prayed. For the first time in years, she prayed. Not to a God she wasn't sure she believed in, but to the universe, to fate, to whatever force had brought her to this place, this man, this moment. Please, she thought, please let him come back to me. Please let this story have a happy ending. Please. The riders appeared on the ridge. Clara counted them. 4. No 5. And in the front hat, pulled low face, twisted with hatred, rode Judge Cornelius Black. He had come to finish what he started, but so had they. Black stopped his horse 50 yards from the house. His men fanned out behind him, rifles raised, faces hard. They looked like men who had nothing left to lose, dangerous, desperate, ready to die. Joe stepped forward. His rifle was at his side, not raised. Behind him, the ranchers who had come to help spread out in a line. "That's far enough, Black." "Hawkins." Black's voice was a rasp, stripped of the smooth politician's charm. "You took everything from me. My position, my money, my wife. Your wife made her own choice, same as everyone else you hurt. She betrayed me. She told the truth. There's a difference." Black's hand tightened on his reins. "I came here to make you an offer. One chance. Walk away from this ranch. Take your mail-order bride and disappear. I'll let you live. And if I don't, then I burn it all down, starting with her." Clara watched from the window. Her hands were shaking, but her mind was clear. She saw Joe's shoulders tighten, saw his finger move closer to the trigger. "Don't," she thought. "Don't give him what he wants." As if he had heard her, Joe lowered his rifle slightly. "You're outnumbered, Black. Look around. Every man here has a reason to want you dead. If you start shooting, you won't survive." "Maybe not." Black smiled, and it was the smile of a man who had already decided to die. "But neither will you." He raised his pistol. Clara didn't think. She moved. The door slammed open. She was on the porch before anyone could stop her, standing between Joe and Black, arms spread wide. "Clara, no." Joe's voice cracked with terror. "Stop!" She faced Black, heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. "This is between you and me. Leave him out of it." Black's pistol wavered. His eyes narrowed. "The bride speaks. The wife speaks." Clara held his gaze. "You tried to have me killed. You hired men to beat me, rob me, leave me for dead on the road. And I'm still here, standing, breathing, married to the man you hate most in this world. That can be remedied." "No, it can't." Clara took a step forward. "Because killing me won't give you back what you lost. It won't make your wife love you. It won't make this town respect you. It won't fill whatever emptiness has been eating you alive for years." Black's face contorted. "You don't know anything about me. I know you're alone. I know you're scared. I know you built your whole life on power and control, and now that it's gone, you don't know who you are anymore. Shut up. I know because I've been there." Clara's voice softened. "I've been broken and lost and certain that my life was over. But it wasn't. There's always another way. Always another chance." "Not for me." Black's voice cracked. "Not anymore. That's your choice." Clara lowered her arms. "But if you pull that trigger, you prove everyone right. You prove that you're exactly what they always thought you were, a small, cruel man who destroys everything he touches." Silence. Black's hand trembled. The pistol shook. Clara saw something shift in his eyes. Something that might have been doubt, or regret, or the memory of whoever he had been before he became this. "You should have stayed in Philadelphia," he whispered. "Maybe." Clara met his eyes. "But I didn't, and I won't apologize for surviving." Black stared at her for a long moment. Then he lowered his pistol. "It's over," he said. His voice was hollow, empty. Tell your men to stand down." Joe moved forward slowly, rifle still ready. "What's the trick?" "No trick." Black looked at him with something that might have been exhaustion. "She's right. About all of it. I've spent so long fighting I forgot what I was fighting for." He climbed down from his horse. His men looked uncertain, glancing at each other. "Drop your weapons," Black told them. "It's finished." One by one the rifles fell into the snow. Jensen moved forward with rope. Black didn't resist as his hands were bound. "You'll hang for this," Joe said. "For the sheriff, for everything else." "Probably." Black looked at Clara one last time. "You know, when I first heard about you, this battered bride coming west, I thought you'd be easy to break. I was wrong." Clara didn't respond. "Take care of him," Black said to her. "He's a better man than I ever was." They led him away. Clara watched until he disappeared over the ridge, surrounded by men who had once feared him. Then her legs gave out. Joe caught her before she hit the ground. "Clara, Clara, look at me." She looked. His face was blurred through her tears. "You impossible, reckless, brilliant woman." His voice shook. "You could have been killed." "I know." "You walked straight into his line of fire." "I know." "I can't." His voice broke. "I can't lose you. Not now. Not after everything." Clara reached up and touched his face. "You didn't. You won't." She managed a shaky smile. "I told you I wasn't going anywhere." He pulled her into his arms and held her while she cried. Around them the ranch slowly came back to life. Men moved, talked, cleaned up the aftermath. Martha emerged from the house with coffee and blankets. Eli ran to check on Hope. But Clara and Joe stayed where they were, holding each other in the snow, finally safe. Finally home. The days that followed blurred together. Black was taken to the territorial capital for trial. The evidence was overwhelming: the letters, Miriam's testimony, the confessions of his men. Clara didn't attend. She had already faced him once. That was enough. The ranch needed rebuilding. Fences repaired, animals counted, damage assessed. Joe worked from dawn to dusk, and Clara worked beside him. They didn't talk about what had happened. Not yet. The wounds were too fresh, too raw. But at night, when the lamp burned low and the world fell quiet, Joe would reach for her hand, and she would hold on, and somehow that was enough. Eli changed after the confrontation. He stopped avoiding Clara, started seeking her out, asking questions about Philadelphia, about her life before, about the books she read and the things she knew. "Why did you do it?" he asked one evening. "Step in front of Black like that. You could have died." Clara considered the question. "Because some things are worth risking everything for." "Like what?" "Like family." Eli was quiet for a moment. "Is that what we are, family?" Clara's heart clenched. She thought about all the ways she could answer, all the careful, measured responses. Then she thought about this boy, orphaned, afraid, desperate for belonging, and she threw careful out the window. "Yes," she said, "that's exactly what we are." Eli didn't cry. He was too proud for that. But his eyes went bright, and when he hugged her, he held on like he was afraid she might disappear. "I'm glad you came," he whispered. "Even if you don't know how to ride a horse." Clara laughed. It hurt her ribs. They were still healing, but she didn't care. "I'm learning. Slowly. Very slowly." "That's okay." Eli pulled back, grinning. "I'll teach you." Spring came slowly. The snow melted. The creek began to run again. The land turned from white to brown, to the first hints of green. Clara stood on the porch one morning, watching the world wake up, when Martha appeared beside her. "You look different." "Different how?" "Settled." Martha's eyes were knowing. "Like you finally believe this is real." Clara thought about it. 3 months ago she had arrived in Bitter Creek, beaten and bleeding, certain her life was over. Now she was married. She had a family. She had a home. "I think I do believe it," she said. Finally. "Good." Martha squeezed her arm. "Because there's something you should know." "What?" "I'm leaving." Clara's heart dropped. "What, Martha? No. Not forever." Martha smiled. "My sister in California has been asking me to visit for years. I finally decided to say yes." "But you're—" Clara stopped, swallowed. "Your family. You can't just leave." "I'm not leaving you. I'm giving you space." Martha's voice was gentle. "You and Joe need time to build your life. Your real life. Not the one where an old woman is always underfoot telling you how to make biscuits." "I like your biscuits." "They're terrible, and we both know it." Clara laughed, despite the tears building in her eyes. "When will you go?" "End of the month. After the spring thaw clears the passes." Martha took her hand. "I'll be back before winter. You can't get rid of me that easily." "Promise?" "Promise." They stood together watching the sunrise, not saying anything else. Some goodbyes didn't need words. Dr. Whitfield came by a week later with news. "Black's trial is set for next month. The territorial prosecutor wants you to testify." Clara's stomach tightened. "Do I have to?" "No, the evidence is strong enough without you. But—" The doctor hesitated. "It would help. Show the jury that you survived, that you're not broken." Joe appeared in the doorway. He had been listening. "She's been through enough." "I know, but if Black walks free—" "He won't." Joe's voice was hard. "He killed a sheriff. He has enemies in the capital. Even if Clara doesn't testify, he's done." "Probably. But probably isn't certain." Clara looked at Joe. She saw the fear in his eyes. Fear of putting her through more pain, more trauma, more exposure. But she also saw something else. Trust. In her. In whatever decision she made. "I'll do it," she said. Joe's jaw tightened. "Clara. Not for the court. Not for justice." She met his eyes. "For me. I need to look at him one more time. I need to prove to myself that he can't hurt me anymore." Joe was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I'll come with you." "I know. And if anyone says anything, if anyone tries to make you feel small or blamed or ashamed, then I'll handle it, same as I've handled everything else." Clara smiled. "I have practice now." Joe crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. "Have I told you lately that you're the bravest person I know?" "Once or twice." "Well, I'm telling you again." He kissed her forehead. "Whatever happens at that trial, we face it together." Together. Clara agreed. It was becoming their word. The trip to the capital took 3 days. Clara and Joe traveled by wagon, leaving Eli with Jensen's family. The boy had protested, but Clara promised to bring him back a present. A real present from the city. The biggest one I can find. Even bigger than hope. Maybe not that big, but close. Eli had finally agreed. The capital was everything Bitter Creek wasn't: crowded, noisy, overwhelming. Clara found herself pressing closer to Joe as they navigated the streets. "You okay?" "Just a lot of people." "We can turn back. Right now. Say the word." Clara shook her head. "I didn't come this far to quit." The courthouse was massive stone columns, marble floors, lawyers in expensive suits. Clara felt small and out of place and fiercely determined not to show it. Judge Cornelius Black sat at the defendant's table. He looked different than she remembered. Smaller. Older. The prison clothes hung loose on his frame, and his eyes had lost their predatory gleam. When he saw Clara, something flickered across his face. Recognition. Perhaps even shame. She didn't look away. The trial lasted 4 days. Clara testified on the 3rd day. She told the story from the beginning: the stagecoach, the attack, The letters, the confrontation. Her voice only shook once when she described the moment she had stepped between Black and Joe. The defense attorney tried to discredit her, called her a gold digger, a liar, a woman with loose morals and a vendetta. Clara answered each accusation calmly. I came to Wyoming to start a new life. I didn't know Judge Black existed. I didn't seek him out. I didn't threaten him. He targeted me because I was vulnerable. He failed because I wasn't as vulnerable as he thought. The jury was out for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Black would hang in the spring. Clara didn't feel triumph. She didn't feel vindication. She just felt tired. Tired and ready to go home. They left the capital that afternoon. The journey home felt longer than the journey there. Clara was quiet, staring at the passing landscape without really seeing it. You did good, Joe said finally. In that courtroom, you were incredible. I don't feel incredible. You stood up to everyone who tried to tear you down. You told the truth even when it hurt. You looked the man who tried to kill you in the eye and didn't flinch. He reached for her hand. That's incredible, Clara, even if you don't feel it. I just want to go home. We're almost there. I know. Clara leaned against his shoulder. I know. They rode in silence for a while. Then Clara spoke again. Joe, yeah. I'm pregnant. The wagon lurched to a stop. Joe turned to stare at her, eyes wide. What? Pregnant. With a baby. Our baby. Clara felt a smile tugging at her lips despite everything. I found out the day before we left. Dr. Whitfield confirmed it. You... Joe's voice cracked. You testified at a murder trial while pregnant. I didn't want to tell you until after. I knew you'd worry. Of course I'd worry, Clara, you. He stopped, took a breath. A baby. We're having a baby. Yes. A real baby. That's generally how it works. Joe laughed. It was a wild sound, half joy, half terror, entirely overwhelmed. I'm going to be a father. You already are. Clara touched his face. You've been a father to Eli for months. This is just... more. More. Joe was still staring at her like she had hung the moon. Clara Hawkins, you are full of surprises. You knew that when you married me. I did. He pulled her close and kissed her. It was long and deep, and full of everything words couldn't say. I love you. I love you so much it scares me. I love you too. They stayed there on the road, holding each other as the sun began to set, and the world turned gold around them. Then Joe clicked his tongue at the horses, and they continued home. Eli was waiting on the porch when they arrived. He ran to meet them before the wagon fully stopped, Hope trotting behind him on wobbly legs that had finally grown steady. You're back. Did you win? What happened to the judge? Did you bring my present? Clara laughed and caught him in a hug. We won. The judge is going away forever. And yes, I brought your present. She pulled a package from the wagon, a leather-bound book of adventure stories, the kind Eli had been asking about for weeks. Real stories from the city. Real stories, with pictures. Eli clutched the book to his chest like it was made of gold. This is the best present anyone ever gave me. Even better than Hope. Different. He looked at the calf, then back at Clara. Hope is family. This is treasure. Clara's heart swelled. That night after dinner, after Eli had fallen asleep with his new book, Clara and Joe sat on the porch and watched the stars. I want to tell him, Clara said, about the baby. He should know. He'll be excited. He's been asking for a sibling since I took him in. He has, every other day. When are you going to get married? When are you going to have babies? I want someone to teach things to. Joe smiled. He's going to be a good big brother. Clara leaned into him. This life we're building, sometimes I can't believe it's real. It's real. I know. But a year ago, I was alone, scared, certain I would never have a family again. And now you have everything. Now I have everything. Clara felt tears on her cheeks. I don't deserve it. Joe turned her face to his. You survived things that would have broken most people. You crossed a country to start over. You faced down a corrupt judge and refused to back down. You stepped between me and a bullet because you loved me. His voice was fierce. Don't you ever say you don't deserve this. You earned it. Every single piece of it. Clara kissed him. It was soft and sweet and tasted like home. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For catching me. That first day. When I fell. Joe smiled. I'll always catch you. That's what husbands do. Even when I'm stubborn. Especially when you're stubborn. They sat together until the stars faded and the first light of dawn touched the mountains. Then they went inside to the life they had built, to the family that waited, to the future that stretched out before them like an open road. Clara Hawkins had stepped off a stagecoach bleeding and broken, certain her story was ending. Instead, it was just beginning. The baby came in December. A girl. Strong lungs, loud cry, a tuft of dark hair just like her father's. They named her Sarah Grace, Sarah for the woman Joe had lost, Grace for the gift she represented. Eli held her like she was made of glass. She's so small. She'll grow? Will she like me? Clara smiled. She already does. You're her brother. I'm her brother. Eli tested the words, then grinned. I'm a brother. Martha returned for the birth as she had promised. She stayed through the winter, helping with the baby, teaching Clara the things her own mother had never taught her. You're a natural, Martha said one evening, watching Clara nurse Sarah. I don't feel like a natural. That's how you know you're doing it right. The ones who think they know everything are the ones who mess it up. Martha squeezed her shoulder. You're going to be a wonderful mother, Clara Hawkins. The words settled into Clara's heart like seeds. Spring came again. Clara stood on the porch, Sarah in her arms, watching Joe and Eli work the fence line. Hope, now fully grown, grazed nearby, no longer a wobbly calf, but a sturdy cow with a gentle disposition. The land stretched out before her, green and gold and endless. Her land, her family, her life. She thought about the woman who had stepped off that stagecoach a year ago. Beaten, broken, afraid. That woman felt like a stranger now. Someone from another life, another world. Clara Hawkins was someone new. She was a wife, a mother, a survivor. She was home. Joe appeared beside her, sweaty from work, smile lines around his eyes. What are you thinking about? Everything. Clara leaned into him. How far we've come. How much we've built. How lucky I am that you caught me that day. Luck had nothing to do with it. Joe kissed her forehead. I saw you fall, and I knew, right then, that you were the one I had been waiting for. You didn't even know me. I knew enough. He looked at Sarah sleeping peaceful in Clara's arms. I knew you were brave. I knew you were strong. I knew you were the kind of woman who would stand between a bullet and the man she loved. You didn't know that then. No, Joe smiled. But I know it now, and that's what matters. Eli came running across the yard. Ma-pa, can I show Sarah the creek? I want her to hear the water. Ma. Pa. The words hit Clara like sunlight. She's too little for the creek, she said, her voice thick. But you can show her the porch. Tell her about all the things she'll see when she's bigger. Eli carefully took his sister, cradling her with the tenderness of someone who had learned that family was fragile and precious and worth protecting. Hey, Sarah Grace, I'm your brother, and this here is our home, and these are our parents, and that cow over there is Hope. She was named Hope because that's what she gave us. And you're gonna love it here, I promise. You're gonna love it so much. Clara felt tears running down her face. Joe pulled her close. You okay? More than okay. She wiped her eyes. I'm happy. Truly, completely happy. So am I. They stood together watching their children, watching their land, watching the life they had built from broken pieces and stubborn hope. Behind them, the house Joe had rebuilt stood solid against the sky. Before them, the future stretched out like a promise. Clara had arrived in Bitter Creek bleeding and alone, certain that love was something that happened to other people. She had been wrong. Love had caught her when she fell. Love had given her a family. Love had shown her that even the most broken stories could have beautiful endings. And as she stood there in the spring sunshine, surrounded by everything she had ever wanted, Clara Hawkins made herself a promise. She would never forget how far she had come. She would never take this life for granted, and she would spend every day for the rest of her days being worthy of the grace she had been given. The wind whispered through the valley. Sarah cooed in Eli's arms. Hope lowed softly in the field, and Clara smiled. She was home. She was whole. She was exactly where she was always meant to be.